The galaxy had forgotten about humans. 20,000 years was a very long time. Empires rose and fell. Stars were born and died. And the memory of a small species from a blue planet became nothing more than dust in the cosmic wind. Admiral Tarak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Valari Conquest. He was tall for his kind, with gray skin and 4 eyes that could see in complete darkness. The Valari had ruled this part of the galaxy for 15,000 years. They were proud. They were powerful. And they believed they were alone at the top. "Admiral," said his first officer, a younger Valari named Kress, "we are receiving a strange signal from the dead zone." Torak turned slowly. The dead zone was a region of space that no ship entered. It was called dead because nothing lived there. No planets, no stations, no life, just empty darkness that stretched for light years in every direction. "What kind of signal?" Torak asked. "Unknown, sir. The computer cannot identify it. But it is repeating, over and over again." Torak walked to the main screen. He had served in the Valari fleet for 200 years. He had seen many strange things, but he had never heard of anything coming from the dead zone. "Show me," he commanded. The screen flickered. A wave pattern appeared. It was weak, very weak, like a whisper from across the universe. But it was there. Something was sending a message from the place where nothing should exist. "It is probably old debris," Torak said. "Perhaps an ancient probe that finally woke up after drifting for centuries. Should we investigate, Admiral?" Torak thought about it. His patrol was routine. They were checking the border of Valari space. There was no threat. There had been no threat for thousands of years. The Valari had defeated every enemy long ago. "Send a scout ship," he finally said. "Tell them to find the source and report back." "It is probably nothing." The scout ship left within the hour. It was a small vessel with a crew of 10. Captain Yun Hana watched it go from her hidden position behind a dark asteroid. She had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Hana was human. She had black hair tied back in a tight braid. Her eyes were dark brown, and her face showed no emotion as she observed the Valari fleet. She wore an old uniform that had not been seen in this galaxy for 20,000 years. "They took the bait," said a voice behind her. Hana turned to see her second in command, Lieutenant Baek Jun. He was young, maybe 30 years old. But like Hana, he had slept for millennia. Time meant little to them now. "Good," Hana said. "Signal the ghost." Baek Jun pressed a button on his console. Deep in the dead zone, lights began to flicker on a ship that had been dark for centuries. The vessel was massive. It was 5 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. Its hull was black, scarred by time and the strange energies of dimensions that normal beings could not imagine. This was the ghost of Earth, the last great warship of humanity. Admiral Tarak received the report from his scout ship 1 hour later. "Admiral," the scout captain's voice was shaking. There is a ship here. A very big ship." "What kind of ship?" Torak asked. "I do not know. The design it is not in our records. But sir, there are symbols on the hull. Old symbols. Very old." Torak felt something cold move through his body. It was a feeling he had not experienced in many years. It was fear. "Describe the symbols," he ordered. "They are letters, sir. Ancient letters. The computer has found a match in the historical archives." There was silence on the bridge. Every Valari officer stopped what they were doing. They all knew what was in the historical archives. They all knew what species used ancient letters like that. "It is impossible," Torak whispered. "Sir, the symbols spell a word. The word is Terra. Terra, Earth, the home of the humans. the species that the Volari had hunted to extinction 20,000 years ago. The species whose planets they had burned, whose stations they had destroyed, whose children they had shown no mercy. "Get us out of here," Turek commanded. "Now." But it was too late. The ghost of Earth emerged from the darkness like a creature from a nightmare. It was so big that it blocked out the stars. Its engines glowed with blue fire that should not have been possible. And its weapons that had been sleeping for 20,000 years, began to wake up. Captain Yunhana stood on the bridge of the ghost. Around her, officers took their positions. They were all human. They were all survivors. And they all remembered what the Volari had done to their people. "Open a channel," Hana said. Her voice was calm, cold. "Channel open, Captain." Hana looked at the screen. She could see the Volari fleet. 5 warships. 2,000 crew members. They were powerful by the standards of this age. But they were nothing compared to what humanity had become. "This is Captain Yunhana of the human warship Ghost of Earth," she said. "We have returned." On the Volari conquest, Admiral Tarek listened to the message. His 4 eyes were wide with terror. This could not be real. Humans were dead. They had been dead for 20,000 years. The Volari had made sure of it. "Admiral," Kress said, "what do we do?" Tarek did not answer. He was staring at the ancient ship on his screen. It was broadcasting something now. A message that repeated over and over again. A message in a language that had not been spoken in this galaxy for millennia. The message was simple. It was just 4 words. But those 4 words changed everything. Humanity remembers. Humanity returns. Captain Hana ended the transmission. She looked at Lieutenant Baek-jun and allowed herself a small smile. 20,000 years of waiting. 20,000 years of sleeping in the cold dark between dimensions. 20,000 years of planning and preparing. It had all been worth it. "Signal the fleet," she said. "Tell them the first phase is complete. The Volari know we are alive." Baek-jun nodded. "And the second phase, Captain?" Hana looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12,000 human warships were waking up. Somewhere out there, millions of humans were opening their eyes for the first time in 20,000 years. "The second phase," she said, "is just beginning." The Ghost of Earth turned away from the Volari fleet. It did not fire. It did not attack. It simply disappeared back into the darkness of the dead zone. Admiral Tarek watched it go. He knew that he should report this to the High Command. He knew that he should warn everyone. But deep in his heart, he also knew that it would not matter. The humans had returned, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. Deep inside the Ghost of Earth, the air was cold. It had been cold for 20,000 years. The ship's corridors were dark and silent. Frost covered the walls like white paint. And in the great sleeping chambers, thousands of humans lay in pods made of glass and steel. Lieutenant Kim Tae was dreaming. In his dream, he was standing on a green hill on Earth. The sun was warm on his face. Birds were singing in the trees. Children were playing in a field below him. It was a beautiful dream. It was a dream of a world that no longer existed. Then the dream began to fade. The warmth disappeared. The sounds became distant. And Kim Tae felt something pulling him back to the waking world. His pod made a soft hissing sound. The glass cover slowly lifted. Cold air rushed out, creating a white fog that floated through the chamber. Kim Tae opened his eyes. At first, he could not see anything. His eyes had been closed for too long. Everything was blurry and strange. He tried to move his arms, but they felt like they were made of stone. His body had forgotten how to work. "Easy," said a voice nearby. "Take your time. You have been asleep for a very long time." Kim Tae turned his head. A woman was standing next to his pod. She was wearing a medical uniform with the old symbol of Earth on her shoulder. Her name tag said Choi Myra. Where? Kim Tae tried to speak, but his throat was dry. It hurt to make sounds. You are on the ghost of Earth, Choi Myra said. She held a cup of water to his lips. Drink slowly. Your body needs time to remember how to function. Kim Tae drank the water. It was the most wonderful thing he had ever tasted. As the liquid moved through his body, he began to feel more alive. His memories started coming back to him. The war. The final war against the Valari. The burning cities. The dying friends. The desperate plan to escape and survive. The long sleep that was supposed to last only a few hundred years. How long? He asked. His voice was weak but clear now. Choi Myra looked at him with eyes that held both sadness and hope. 20,000 years, she said. Kim Tae stared at her. He could not process this information. 20,000 years. Everyone he had ever known on Earth was dead. His family. His friends. His whole world. All of it was gone, turned to dust by time. I know it is difficult, Choi Myra said. But you are not alone. There are many of us waking up now. And we have a mission to complete. Around the chamber, other pods were opening. Men and women were sitting up, looking confused and scared. They were all feeling what Kim Tae was feeling. They were all trying to understand what had happened to them. Kim Tae forced himself to stand. His legs were weak, but they held him. He looked around the chamber and saw thousands of pods stretching into the distance. Some were open. Most were still closed, waiting for their turn. How many of us are there? He asked. On this ship, 50,000, Choi Myra said. But across the fleet, there are millions. Millions of humans who have been sleeping in the void between dimensions, waiting for this moment. Kim Tae walked slowly through the chamber. Every face he saw was human, young and old, men and women, scientists and soldiers, artists and farmers. They had saved as many people as they could before the end. They had put them to sleep and sent them into the darkness where the Valari could not follow. He stopped in front of a large window. Outside, he could see stars. They were different from the stars he remembered. 20,000 years had changed the sky itself. The Valari, he said. Are they still out there? Yes, Choi Myra said. She came to stand beside him. They built an empire from the ashes of our worlds. They believe they are the rulers of the galaxy. They believe we are extinct. Kim Tae felt something growing inside him. It was not anger. It was not hate. It was something colder, something more patient. It was the feeling of a man who had lost everything and had been given a second chance. They are wrong, he said. Captain Yoon Hana called a meeting in the main briefing room. The senior officers of the Ghost of Earth gathered around a large table. They were all still recovering from the long sleep, but they were ready to hear the plan. 20,000 years ago, Hana began, we made a choice. We could have stayed and died fighting the Valari, or we could escape and survive. We chose survival, not because we were afraid, but because we knew that one day we would return. She pressed a button and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the galaxy as it was now. Valari space was marked in red. It covered almost a quarter of the known stars. The Valari believed they won the war, Hana continued. They wrote their history books. They celebrated their victory. They forgot that we were ever a threat. And that was exactly what we wanted. Lieutenant Baek-jun spoke up. Captain, what is our current status? The fleet is waking up, Hana said. 12,000 ships are spread across the galaxy, hidden in places the Valari never thought to look. In the next few days, millions of our people will open their eyes. And then we will begin the next phase, Kim-tae was listening carefully. He was still new to all of this. He had been a junior officer when he went to sleep. Now he was waking up in a universe he did not recognize. "Captain," he said, "what is the next phase?" Hannah looked at him. There was something in her eyes that Kim-tae could not identify. It might have been determination. It might have been grief. It might have been hope. "We show them who we are," she said. "We let the galaxy know that humanity is not dead. We find the species that the Valari have conquered and enslaved. We offer them freedom. And then, when the time is right, we take back what was stolen from us." An old man at the table spoke. His name was Han Seok, and he had been a general in the old Human Defense Force. His hair was white, and his hands shook slightly from the effects of the long sleep. But his voice was strong. "The Valari killed billions of our people," he said. "They burned our homeworld. They hunted us like animals. What do we do with them?" The room was silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing. 20,000 years of sleeping had not erased the memory of what the Valari had done. The screams of the dying. The cities turned to ash. The children who never got to grow up. Captain Hannah took a deep breath. "We are human," she said. "We are better than them. We will not become monsters to defeat monsters, but we will have justice. The Valari will answer for what they did, and the galaxy will remember that humanity always comes back." She stood up and looked at each person around the table. "Get some rest. Eat something. Talk to the others who are waking up. Tomorrow we begin our work. Tomorrow we start taking back the stars." The meeting ended. Kim-tae walked back to the sleeping chamber. More pods were opening now. More humans were waking up to a universe that had forgotten them. He stopped at a window and looked out at the darkness. Somewhere out there, the Valari were still celebrating their ancient victory. They had no idea what was coming for them. Kim-tae smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had been given a purpose, a reason to live after losing everything. The awakening had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. Admiral Torak had not slept in 3 days. He stood before the High Council of the Valari Empire, trying to explain something that should have been impossible. The council chamber was huge and dark. 12 ancient Valari sat in floating chairs above him, their 4 eyes glowing in the shadows. "You are telling us," said the High Chancellor, "that humans are alive?" "Yes, High Chancellor," Torak said. His voice was tired but steady. "I saw their ship with my own eyes. It was real. They are real. Humans have been dead for 20,000 years, another council member said. We killed them ourselves. We burned their worlds. We destroyed their fleets. There is no way they could have survived. And yet they have, Torak replied. I do not understand how, but I know what I saw. A human warship, bigger than anything in our fleet, appeared from nowhere. And it spoke to us. The council members looked at each other. They did not want to believe this. The extinction of humanity was their greatest achievement. It was the foundation of their empire. Everything they had built was based on the belief that they had won forever. Perhaps it was a trick, the High Chancellor said. Perhaps another species built a fake ship to scare us. No, Torak said. The technology was human. Old human. The kind we have not seen since the war. But it was also different, more advanced. As if they had spent all this time improving it. At that moment, alarms began to sound throughout the capital city. Red lights flashed. Screens all over the planet showed the same message. Unknown vessels detected. Thousands of them. Commander Park Soo stood on the bridge of the Phoenix, one of the 12,000 ships in the human fleet. She was calm. She had waited a very long time for this moment. 20,000 years of sleeping in the dark spaces between dimensions. 20,000 years of planning. Now it was time to show the galaxy what humanity had become. All ships report ready, Lieutenant Kim Tae said. He had been assigned to the Phoenix after waking up. He was still learning about the new world, but he was a fast learner. Good, Park Soo said. Open a channel to the Valari capital. I want to speak to their leaders directly. The channel opened. On the screen, Park Soo could see the High Council chamber. She could see Admiral Torak standing before the ancient leaders. She could see the fear in their 4 eyes. Greetings, Park Soo said. Her voice was broadcast to every screen, every speaker, every device in the Valari Empire. My name is Commander Park Soo of the Human Liberation Fleet. I am speaking to you from one of 12,000 warships that have just appeared in your space. The High Chancellor leaned forward. His gray face was twisted with confusion and anger. This is impossible. How are you alive? Where did you come from? Park Soo smiled. It was a cold smile. The smile of someone who had been planning revenge for longer than the Valari could imagine. Let me tell you a story, she said. 20,000 years ago, you attacked humanity without warning. You destroyed our colonies. You burned our homeworld. You killed billions of innocent people. You thought you had won. She paused to let her words sink in. But we did not all die. Some of us escaped. Not just a few ships running away. We had a plan that was centuries in the making. We knew we could not defeat you in a direct war. So we chose another path. What path? The High Chancellor demanded. We hid, Park Soo said simply, but not in normal space. Your ship searched for us for years after the war. You found nothing because we were not there. We had discovered something during the final years of the war. A way to move between dimensions. A way to exist in the spaces between reality itself. The council members looked at each other. They had heard stories of human science. The humans had always been clever. Too clever. That was why the Valari had decided to destroy them. For 20,000 years, Park Soo continued, we have been drifting in the void beyond your reach. But we were not sleeping the whole time. Our scientists worked. Our engineers built. Our warriors trained. We used the time you gave us to become something more than we were. Admiral Torak finally spoke. How many of you are there? Millions, Park Soo said. Millions of humans on thousands of ships. We saved everyone we could. Families, children, elders, scientists, artists, soldiers. We carried our entire civilization into the darkness. And now we have brought it back. This changes nothing, the High Chancellor said. His voice was loud, but Park Soo could hear the fear underneath. We still have the largest fleet in the galaxy. We still have the most powerful weapons. You may have survived, but you cannot defeat us. Park Soo laughed. It was not a cruel laugh. It was the laugh of someone who knew something the others did not. High Chancellor, she said, let me show you something. She pressed a button on her console. On every screen in the Valari Empire, a map appeared. It showed their entire territory. And on that map, thousands of red dots were appearing. They were everywhere. In orbit around major worlds. Near military bases. At the edges of trade routes. Each of those dots is a human warship, Park Soo said. We did not just appear in one place. We appeared everywhere at once. Every important system in your empire has human ships in it right now. Your military bases. Your shipyards. Your capital planets. The High Council members were standing now. They were shouting orders. They were calling for their fleets to respond. But Park Soo knew it was too late. The human ships had positioned themselves perfectly. You kept our worlds warm for us, Park Soo said. You built your empire on our graves. You used our technology, copied from the ruins of our civilization. And you forgot about us. That was your mistake. What do you want? The High Chancellor screamed. Credits? Territory? What do you want from us? Park Sue leaned back in her chair. She looked at the screen for a long moment before answering. We want justice, she said. We want the galaxy to know what you did. We want the species you have conquered and enslaved to know that there is hope. And we want you to understand that humanity never gives up. We never surrender. We never stop fighting for what is right. She stood up and walked closer to the screen. But today is not about war. Today is about revelation. We want the galaxy to see us, to know that we are alive, to understand that the great human extinction was a lie. And then what? Torek asked. He was the only one who seemed able to speak calmly. And then, Park Sue said, we give you a choice. You can fight us and lose. You can run, and we will find you. Or you can begin to make things right. Release the species you have enslaved. Return the territories you have stolen. Face justice for the crimes of your ancestors. We will never agree to that, the High Chancellor spat. I know, Park Sue said, but I had to offer. Now the galaxy knows what kind of empire you are. And when the war comes, they will know who started it. She reached for the button to end the transmission. One more thing, she said. Look up at your sky, at your stars. Remember this moment. Remember the day you learned that humanity survived. Because from now on, whenever you look at the darkness between the stars, you will wonder if we are watching. And we will be. We will always be watching. The transmission ended. On the bridge of the Phoenix, Commander Park Sue sat back down. Around her, the crew was silent. They had just declared themselves to the galaxy. There was no going back now. Kim Tae looked at his commander. What happens next? He asked. Park. Sue looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Volari were panicking. Their empire was shaking. And across the galaxy, millions of enslaved beings were looking up at the sky, hearing the name humanity for the first time in 20,000 years. Now, she said, we finish what we started. The war began at dawn. Not the dawn of any single planet, but the dawn of a new age. Across the galaxy, human warships opened fire on Volari military bases. The sound of weapons echoed through space stations and orbital platforms. And the universe changed forever. Captain Lee Jin stood on the bridge of the Stormbringer, one of the most powerful ships in the human fleet. He was young for a captain, only 35 years old by his body's count. But he had trained for this moment since childhood, before the long sleep began. All weapons ready, his tactical officer reported. Shields at full power. The fleet is in position. Lee Jin looked at the screen. Before him was the Volari homeworld. It was a gray planet covered in massive cities. Billions of Volari lived there. They had never known war on their own soil. They had never felt the fear of invasion. Today, Lee Jin said quietly, they will understand what they did to us. The Volari defense fleet tried to stop them. 200 warships formed the wall between the human fleet and the planet. Their weapons glowed with power. Their commanders shouted orders with confidence. They believed they could win. They were wrong. Lee Jin gave a simple order. Fire. The human ships released their weapons. But these were not the weapons of 20,000 years ago. These were weapons that had been improved over millennia. They moved faster than the Volari could track. They hit harder than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The first line of Volari ships disappeared in balls of fire. The second line tried to retreat. The third line was destroyed before they could even turn around. In less than 5 minutes, the great Volari defense fleet was gone. On the planet below, people screamed. They ran through the streets looking for shelter. They prayed to gods they had not believed in for centuries. They called out for help that would never come. Legion opened a channel to the planet. His voice was calm and clear. "People of the Valari homeworld," he said. "I am Captain Legion of the Human Liberation Fleet. We are not here to destroy you. We are here to end the war that your ancestors started 20,000 years ago." In the capital city, the High Chancellor was hiding in his bunker. The walls were made of the strongest materials in the Empire. They were supposed to protect him from anything, but he could feel them shaking every time a human ship flew overhead. "Get me a connection to their commander," he ordered his aides. "Tell them we want to negotiate." The connection was made. Commander Park Sue appeared on his screen. She looked tired but determined. "Hi, Chancellor," she said. "You wanted to talk?" "Yes," he said. His voice had lost all its pride. "Please, stop the attack. We will give you whatever you want." "What I want," Park Sue said, "is justice. Release all the species you have enslaved. Return the territories you have conquered. Open your historical records so the galaxy can see the truth about what you did to humanity." "Done," the High Chancellor said immediately. "All of it. Just stop the attack." Park Sue shook her head. "It is not that simple. Words mean nothing. You will do these things, but not because you promised. You will do them because if you do not, we will take them from you by force." Outside the bunker, the attack had stopped, but the human ships remained in orbit. They were waiting, watching dot across the galaxy. Other battles were being fought. The Valari had military bases on 1,000 worlds. They had shipyards that could build fleets in months. They had weapons that could destroy planets. None of it mattered. The human fleet was everywhere. They had spent 20,000 years preparing for this moment. They knew every weakness in the Valari defense. They had studied every battle plan. They had built weapons specifically designed to defeat Valari technology. Lieutenant Kim Tae was on the front lines, leading a ground assault on a Valari military base. He had never killed anyone before the long sleep. He had been an engineer, not a soldier. But war changed people. And 20,000 years of dreaming about revenge had changed him too. "Keep moving," he shouted to his squad. "The main control center is ahead." The Valari soldiers fought hard, but they were outmatched. Human armor was stronger. Human weapons were faster. Human tactics were better. Within an hour, the base had fallen. Kim Tae stood in the control center, looking at the screens. They showed Valari communications from across the Empire. Everyone was panicking. Everyone was losing. "This is it," he said to himself. "This is what they did to us. Now they know how it feels." But he did not feel happy. He thought he would feel joy at this moment. He thought revenge would make him whole. Instead, he just felt tired and sad and empty. A message came through from Commander Park Sue. Her face appeared on one of the screens. "Kim Tae," she said. "Good work. The base is ours." "Thank you, Commander," he replied. "What are our next orders?" "We are entering the final phase," she said. "The Valari Empire is falling. Their fleets are destroyed. Their leaders are surrendering. But our work is not done. We need to help the species they have enslaved. We need to rebuild what was broken." Kim Tae nodded. He understood. Victory was not just about defeating enemies. It was about building something better from the ruins. On the Valari homeworld, Captain Legion had landed his troops. They were not killing civilians. They were not burning cities. They were simply taking control. Every government building, every military base, every communication center. The people of the planet watched in confusion. This was not what they expected. In their history books, the humans were monsters. Wild beasts who attacked without mercy. That was what their ancestors had told them. That was why the war had been justified. But these humans were different. They were disciplined. They were organized. They even helped wounded Valari soldiers get medical treatment. An old Valari woman approached one of the human soldiers. She was shaking with fear, but she needed to know. Why? She asked. Why are you helping us? We destroyed your world. We killed your people. Why are you not taking revenge? The soldier looked at her. He was young, maybe 20 years old by appearance, but his eyes held a wisdom that came from 20,000 years of sleeping and dreaming. Because we are human, he said. We remember what you did. We will never forget. But we will not become like you. We will not destroy innocent people to punish the guilty. That is the difference between us. The old woman began to cry. She did not know why. Maybe it was relief. Maybe it was shame. Maybe it was something else entirely. Commander Park Soo broadcast a message to the entire galaxy. Every species, on every planet, in every system, heard her voice. The Valari Empire has fallen, she said. But this is not a conquest. This is a liberation. For 20,000 years, the Valari have ruled through fear and force. They have enslaved entire species. They have destroyed cultures and civilizations. That time is over. She paused to let her words travel across the stars. Humanity has returned, not as conquerors, but as protectors. We offer freedom to all who were held in chains. We offer help to all who were hurt by the old empire. And we offer a warning to anyone who would build another empire of fear. We are watching. We will always be watching. The message ended, and across the galaxy, millions of beings looked up at the sky. For the first time in 20,000 years, they felt something they had forgotten existed. Hope. Captain Li Jin stood on the balcony of the Valari Capitol building. Below him, the city was quiet. The war was over. The fighting had stopped. But the real work was just beginning. He looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the rest of the human fleet was helping other worlds. Freeing slaves. Distributing supplies. Building schools and hospitals. They were doing what humans had always done best. They were rebuilding. 3 months had passed since the war ended. The galaxy was still adjusting to its new reality. The Valari Empire, which had ruled for 15,000 years, was gone. In its place was something new. Something hopeful. Commander Park Soo stood before the Galactic Assembly. This was the first meeting of free species in 20,000 years. Representatives from 100 different worlds had come together on a neutral station. Some had never seen each other before. Some had been enemies for centuries. But today, they were united by one thing. They all wanted to hear what humanity would do next. The assembly hall was massive. It could hold 10,000 beings. Today, every seat was filled. Preachers of all shapes and sizes watched as the human commander walked to the speaking platform. She was not tall. She was not physically impressive. But there was something about her that commanded respect. Thank you all for coming, Park Soo began. Her voice was calm and steady. I know many of you are scared. The Valari ruled this galaxy for longer than most of your species can remember. Their fall has created chaos. Their absence has left a void. And you are wondering if humanity will simply take their place. She looked around the room. She could see the fear in their eyes. She understood it. Power always created fear. Let me be clear, she said. Humanity did not return to build an empire. We returned to prevent empires. We returned because the galaxy needs protectors, not rulers. And we intend to be those protectors. A representative from a small species stood up. He was covered in blue fur and had large, nervous eyes. How can we trust you? He asked. The Valari also said they wanted peace at the beginning. Then they enslaved us for thousands of years. Park Soo nodded. It was a fair question. You cannot trust us based on words, she said. You can only trust us based on actions. In the 3 months since the war ended, human ships have delivered food to 43 famine-struck worlds. Human doctors have treated millions of sick and wounded. Human engineers have helped rebuild infrastructure that the Valari destroyed. We have asked for nothing in return. She paused to let this sink in. We do not want your resources. We do not want your worship. We do not want your submission. We want only one thing. A galaxy where no species lives in fear. A galaxy where children can grow up without wondering if soldiers will come in the night. A galaxy where peace is not just a dream, but a reality. Captain Yun Hana was sitting in the back of the hall. She had been promoted to admiral after the war, but she did not like the title. She preferred to remember herself as the captain of the Ghost of Earth. The ship that had started everything. She watched Park Soo speak and felt proud. 20,000 years ago, they had made a choice. They had chosen to survive. They had chosen to wait. They had chosen to become something better than the enemies who had tried to destroy them. Now the choice was paying off. Lieutenant Kim Tae was not at the assembly. He was on Earth, or rather he was on what used to be Earth. The planet was still there, but it was different now. The Valari had not destroyed it completely. They had used it as a trophy, a reminder of their victory. The cities had been turned to rubble. The forests had been burned. The oceans had been poisoned. But life was returning. Kim Tae stood on a hill overlooking what used to be a great city. Now it was covered in grass and flowers. Nature was healing the wounds that war had created. And humans were helping. Thousands of workers were spread across the landscape. They were planting trees. They were cleaning water. They were building new homes for the people who wanted to return. It would take centuries to fully restore Earth, but they had time. After 20,000 years, what was a few more centuries? Lieutenant Kim, a voice called out. It was Choi Myra, the doctor who had helped him wake up from the long sleep. There is someone here to see you. Kim Tae turned around. An old Valari was walking up the hill. He was using a cane, and his 4 eyes were clouded with age. But he moved with purpose. Can I help you? Kim Tae asked. He was surprised to see a Valari on Earth. Most of them were too ashamed to come here. I wanted to see it, the old Valari said. I wanted to see the world my ancestors destroyed. I wanted to understand what we did. Kim Tae looked at him for a long moment. He could feel the old anger rising inside him. This Valari was connected to the beings who had killed billions of humans, who had burned his homeworld, who had tried to erase his entire species from existence. But then the anger faded. It had been fading for months now. Revenge was not as satisfying as he had thought it would be. Hatred was too heavy to carry forever. Come, Kim Tae said. Let me show you. They walked together through the ruins. Kim Tae told stories about what the city used to look like. He described the buildings that had stood there, the people who had lived in them, the dreams they had carried in their hearts. The old Valari listened in silence. Tears were falling from his 4 eyes. He did not try to hide them. I am sorry, he finally said. I know it means nothing. I know words cannot undo what was done. But I am sorry. Kim Tae stopped walking. He looked at the old alien who had made himself so vulnerable. And he made a decision. It means something, Kim Tae said. Maybe not enough. Maybe never enough. But it means something. Back at the Galactic Assembly, Park Soo was finishing her speech. Humanity will not rule over you, she said. We will stand beside you. We will protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will speak for those who have no voice. And we will wait. Wait for what? Someone in the crowd asked. Park Soo smiled. It was the first real smile she had shown in months. We will wait for the day when you do not need us anymore. When every species in this galaxy can stand on its own. When peace is not something we have to enforce, but something that exists naturally. That is our dream. That is why we survived. That is why we returned. She stepped back from the speaking platform. The hall was silent. Then, slowly, the representatives began to stand. They were applauding, not with words, but with gestures. Each species had its own way of showing respect. And they were all doing it now. Admiral Yun Hana found Park Sue after the speech. They walked together through the corridors of the station, away from the crowds and the noise. You did well, Hana said. They believe in us now. Belief is just the beginning, Park Sue replied. Now we have to prove it. Every day. For as long as it takes. They stopped at a window. Outside, they could see the stars. So many stars. So many worlds. So many possibilities. Do you ever wonder, Hana asked, what our ancestors would think? The ones who died 20,000 years ago? The ones who never got to see this moment. Park Sue thought about it. She thought about all the people who had sacrificed everything so that humanity could survive. The soldiers who had fought to the last breath. The scientists who had built the dimensional technology. The mothers and fathers who had put their children in cryopods, not knowing if they would ever wake up. I think they would be proud, she finally said. Not because we won the war, but because we did not let the war destroy who we are. We stayed human, and in the end, that mattered more than anything. Hana nodded. She understood. Outside the window, a human patrol ship passed by. It was heading to a distant system where refugees needed help. Other ships were doing the same thing across the galaxy. Protecting, helping, rebuilding. The humans had returned. Not as conquerors or destroyers, but as guardians, as friends, as the species that had looked into the darkness and refused to become part of it. And somewhere on Earth, Kim Tae was planting a tree. A small tree that would take hundreds of years to grow. He did not know if he would live to see it reach its full height. But that was not the point. The point was that it would grow. Life would continue. Hope would survive. That was what it meant to be human. Not just to survive, but to help others survive too. Not just to remember the past, but to build a better future. The new dawn had begun.